and welcome back to Exposed, Scandalous Files of the Elite. I'm your host, Jim Chapman, and today I am bringing you an Exposed original series episode, and we're going to be talking about the exploits of a Louisiana mayor that you are just not going to believe. Her name is Misty Roberts, and just within the past few weeks, Mayor Misty was convicted of carnal knowledge of a juvenile and indecent behavior with a juvenile when enough evidence existed for a jury to convict her of having sex with the 16-year-old best friend of her son during a pool party taking place at her home for her son and his friends. Now, this story has been everywhere the past couple of weeks, and I do know that some people, you may be listening to this next year in 2027, so it's March 3rd of 2026 when she was convicted. The past couple of weeks, all over the national media, it has been the coverage showing up everywhere. Facebook, TikTok, you name it. I actually have been on this case ever since it broke way back in 2024. I actually released a bonus episode, as a matter of fact, covering the very limited amount of details that were known as of that time. But wow, do we have all the freaking deets now. So I'm following up today with everything that has come out in this wild case from start to finish. So let's get into it, and I'm going to take you to DeRidder, Louisiana for this one. Now, DeRidder is in what's known as Beauregard Parish. It's about 50 miles or so from the Texas line. It's in North Louisiana, and the city is home to about 11,000 people. Now, in 2024, Misty was the first female mayor ever elected in DeRidder. She had been elected mayor in 2018, and she was very popular there. She was reelected in 2022, and in 2024, midway through her second term, she was already ramping up for a run at a third term. So it's important to understand that it's clear now there were two sides to Mayor Misty. The public side, which is the side that most people saw, and the private side that very few were aware of. So Misty was born and raised in DeRidder. She graduated high school from DeRidder High School in the year 2000. She goes to college. She graduates from McNeese State University in communications. She goes back to DeRidder, and she lands a job at some point as a project coordinator for the then mayor. Now, this was part of her work with a PR firm. So she worked directly for the PR firm, but the PR firm had a contract with the mayor's office, which is ironic considering years later, she would personally become a PR nightmare. So she moves on from the PR firm. This is in 2009, and she starts working for the city of DeRidder, and she is the director of communications for DeRidder, a job she would have until 2018 when she runs for and wins the election for mayor. And this was a huge deal in DeRidder. She was the first female mayor. At the time, she was married. She had 2 children, and Misty Roberts had a lot of things going for her at that time. She was extremely smart. She had a seemingly solid family. Everyone knew her in DeRidder. She grew up there, right? Was raised there. She knew the political arena very well as well because of her affiliation with that PR firm. And she was, and still is, strikingly beautiful, which sadly matters. Couple all that with a degree in communication, and it will oftentimes equal success. Now, while publicly life was great, not so much privately. In 2022, Misty Roberts and her husband Duncan Clanton, who was an insurance agent in DeRidder, and to my knowledge still is, they divorce, and it ain't pretty. Duncan accused Mayor Misty of multiple affairs during their marriage. So here's an example of some of the text messages sent by Duncan to Misty during this time. Quote, "You really are cold-blooded. Just wanted you to know what a real piece of shit you are. I hope you get everything you deserve." Now, in the same exchange, quote, "Funny how you call me a psychotic, but you were the one who left me for a cop or a damn dirt contractor." An alcoholic, cheating SOB. And you blame me around every corner for that. No telling how long you have been with that fucker as much as you have been to baseball games. You are the perfect match. And part of the same exchange, y'all, you've never looked in the mirror, and it shows how shallow you are. I'll admit, in the short term, this has been hard to move on from. But in the long term, it will be a different story. Have fun living your propped up life. And finally, he wrote, "You're the supermom. People see through your bullshit every time you make a post. Keep on. You're the wolf and have never been toxic. You just quit and gave up. Own it and man the fuck up." So as you can tell, this is not the easiest of divorces. As you can see, and as you heard in those texts, she was spending a lot of time apparently with the dirt guy, as he termed it, and bringing him to her kids' baseball games. Now, I don't know anything about the mention of a cop or his other accused affairs, and he even admits in the text that these were things he was hearing from people. Well, at least in the case of the dirt guy, there was legitimacy to that, and we know this because about a year after Duncan Clanton sent those texts, he also filed a restraining order, a civil restraining order, against a local pipeliner and dirt guy by the name of William Andrew Krantz. This civil restraining order claimed Krantz was an alcoholic, he was suicidal, and he was stalky. He went on to claim that in one particular incident, Krantz was arguing with Misty Roberts, who at the time, her kids were 10 and 13, and he said to the kids, quote, "Your mom needs to learn how to shut her cocksucker if she knows what's good for her." So obviously I can see why the guy will be pissed, because you're telling this lady to shut her cocksucker. He said his son told him this about that incident, and he went on to say in that document that he was fearful for his children's safety due to Krantz's instability and access to firearms. He alleged that Krantz had threatened suicide on Facebook in the past and had been found by police in the past, drunk and passed out with a gun on his person. So the wild thing here is, 3 weeks after that document was filed, Krantz is found dead. And even stranger is the cause of his death remains a mystery even today. He died in February of 2024. And according to his obituary, he was a baseball star at DeRidder High School. And in addition to his full-time job, he was also an assistant coach on the baseball team. Sadly, he left behind a son and stepdaughter, and he was 38 years old when he passed. So just for context, and because I don't think I mentioned it a few minutes ago, the divorce was finalized in May of 2023 after Roberts filed a year prior in 2022. Now, one thing is for sure, and that is that Roberts and William Krantz were definitely serious, though they were on again, off again. We know this because she had the word Andrew tattooed on her left wrist, and this word was tattooed in the middle of a wing. And Andrew, incidentally, is William's middle name. So you don't get a tattoo like that unless at least at some point you were in love, right? So let's move on. She is divorced. William dies in February of 2024, and Misty is in the middle of her second term as mayor. On July 27th, out of seemingly the clear blue sky, she resigns from the office of mayor of DeRidder. I want to read her resignation letter because it's very short and sweet. It says, "For nearly 15 years, my love and passion for DeRidder has been my foundation while serving as mayor. I will forever be proud of what we've been able to accomplish together. This role has rewarded me with many great relationships. I am humbled to have witnessed the hard work that took a community to come together and overcome through unprecedented times. However, I must readjust my focus and priorities. Please accept this letter as my formal resignation effective today. To the residents of the city, thank you for your trust, love, and support of me to lead your city into a future of greatness. My love for DeRidder will never waver. Sincerely, Misty Roberts." And that's all she wrote. And she resigned. And as I said, out of the clear blue sky, unless you lived in DeRidder, Louisiana, because there rumors were already surfacing about what occurred. And it wasn't long after that Misty Roberts would be arrested, and the state police would confirm some of those rumors. She was arrested for third-degree rape. At this point, Misty is 42 years old. Now, it's all over the city of DeRidder in no time. People are talking about it, and everything, as you would expect, would travel all the way to social media. TikTok would pick it up. It would run rampant. Just the arrest of Misty Roberts. No one can imagine it. This very attractive mayor at 42 years old gets arrested for screwing a 16-year-old kid. It's just unbelievable when she could likely land any adult single male that she wanted. As a matter of fact, a lot of the comments underneath when she got arrested, a lot of the comments on these Facebook posts would comment on just that. She could have any guy, single man she wanted in the world. Why are you messing with teenagers? You know, when you cover this like I do, especially on the Bad Teacher series, you know it's not uncommon by a long shot. And sadly, it seems like it's a power thing. I fully believe that a lot of these ultra attractive females that are in positions of power, like a mayor or a teacher, it's just not a challenge, these older guys. I think they almost, in their twisted minds, consider it a challenge and complimentary, especially when you're an older female, that they consider it somehow complimentary that a younger male would be attracted to you. Okay, if he's 25, I could maybe understand why. But 16? Come on. So as I told you, I did the original episode on this as a bonus episode for Patreon, and I was waiting for the trial to kind of make this a public episode and give you all the full details, because not a lot was out there when I recorded that original episode. But now it is, because that trial started on January 27th, 2026. Now, because Misty was mayor and very well known along legal lines, this case caused many area judges to recuse themselves. However, 2 in the area did not. One of those judges actually takes the case, and the defense appeals that. They felt like the judge should have recused himself, and an appeals court throws out the case, essentially, and what's known as an ad hoc judge, which is a judge that is appointed by the Supreme Court of Louisiana. He declares a mistrial in the original case. So this meant everything had to be done all over again. So on February 23rd, 2026, trial gets underway for a second time. Voir dire, which is jury selection, starts. It gets completed, and we're underway. Now, on February 27th, that was the first day of witness testimony, and on that day, they got to a bunch of them. First up was a CASA forensic interviewer, and CASA, y'all, is Child Advocacy Services people, and they are specifically trained to interview children, especially in sex abuse cases. And this particular first witness, her name was Annalise Eglin, I believe is how you pronounce that. She testified about interviewing 3 kids in this case. Now, I'm not going to detail her testimony per se, because the kids she interviewed, they're going to testify later, and I'm going to detail their testimony so that you're getting it right out of the horse's mouth. Now, the same thing occurred with the second witness, forensic interviewer number 2. Her name was Petra Minix, and mainly she testified to the interview process. She explained how the interviews are recorded, typically just one person in the room, that she asked primarily open-ended questions, and that the room itself is set up in such a way as to not appear intimidating. It's welcoming to children, thus they're more likely to open up. So now we're going to really get into it with the third witness of the first day, and called to the stand was the minor son of Misty Roberts, and we're going to refer to him as CC. That's how the court referred to him. So Misty's son takes the stand, and the first thing the prosecution does is they introduce a video into evidence where Petra Minix, who is that forensic examiner, she interviewed Cece some 8 months after the incident. Now, in the video, Cece was cooperative. He was very emotional, which is certainly understandable, and he is detailing the events, and he stated the gathering of the teens at Mayor Misty's house was to celebrate his birthday, and it was a pool party. He said the party started off with friends arriving at the Roberts home, and he said that alcohol was readily available and that it was provided by his mother, Misty Roberts. And holy smokes, y'all, this is a party with primarily 15 and 16-year-old kids, and even some kids that are younger, as you will discover, than that. And the mother, who is the freaking mayor, is providing them alcohol. Imagine if this was one of your kids going to this party. I mean, what would you think? What if your kids were on medication or something and alcohol could affect that? It's just unreal. You would think they're going to a party at the mayor's house. What could happen, right? Well, we're going to get into exactly what could happen. So he said not only were the kids drinking, but that his mother, Mayor Misty, she had been drinking a lot herself. He said she consumed multiple alcoholic beverages throughout the evening, though he wasn't sure how many. He said that this set the tone for an increasingly chaotic atmosphere. He also said about mid-evening, as the night progressed, his cousin, who was 15, approaches him. And he said something weird was going on. He said his cousin told him that his mother, Mayor Misty, had gone upstairs to the bonus room, which, y'all, in the mayor's case, this was a room in the home that served kind of like a game room for the family. It had a couch in it. And, I don't know what else it had in there. Let's say a pool table or something. I don't know, but it was really referred to as a game room or a bonus room. Well, the cousin tells her son that he saw that she went into that room and locked the door. He could, I guess, hear the click with the victim in this case, who was 16 years old at the time. So obviously her son's curious as to what the heck's going on, and Misty's son and his cousin, who is Misty's nephew, they go to see what's up. And Cece said he kind of pulled on the door handle, but it was locked. So he moved to a nearby window and he peers through a crack in the blinds. And he said, quote, "I peeked through the window blinds and I witnessed her having sex with the victim." So that was all in the video interview portion that was shown in open court to the jury from his interview with that CASA examiner. And then he took some direct questions from the prosecution. And in this direct testimony, he reiterated what I just told you and what he said in that interview, as well as some other things that were entered into evidence. He described text messages as the prosecution would put them up on the monitor in the courtroom. And in the text that was shown in open court, CC texted his mother that, quote, the situation was crazy and that his younger sister was crying. Another message directly referred to the victim's age. Now, in that message, he said the victim was 17, but we know now that the victim was certainly 16. So when the prosecution asked CC if he actually saw his mom having sex, he said, looking back on it, he couldn't say for sure. He emphasized that no private parts were visible to him, only suggestive movements and positions. He did say that in his mind, it certainly looked like it. A picture was then introduced into evidence that showed the victim shirtless with his mom facing the victim in a bikini top, and the lower half of their bodies was obscured by furniture. And she had a very seductive smile in that picture. So the defense on cross-examination did get the son to say he could not say 100% they were having sex, but that it sure looked like it. When asked if he wanted his mom to be found not guilty, he stated yes. So he was forced to testify, right? But he doesn't want his mom to get in trouble. Sure, I mean, he's pissed about all this, but it's his mother, right? Next up on the stand was Misty's daughter, who was 2 years younger than her brother. So I'm just going to cover some new information as I go through these witnesses incidentally to avoid being repetitive because a lot of them saw the same thing. But she said in her forensic interview that she saw her mother and the 16-year-old victim on top of each other in that bonus room. Roberts' nephew then took the stand, and he said he noticed Roberts and the victim go into the bonus room and lock the door behind him. He corroborated that he told Cece this and that they went to check it out, and he said he used his iPhone to peer through the crack in the window after having pulled up Snapchat. So obviously, he's using that to kind of zoom in and see what's going on. He said the movements were sexual in nature, but he could not see any penetration from his vantage point. He also added that after the incident, both sides wanted to keep it quiet, and he mentioned that he was directly told, quote, "Lie till you die" in a text if questioned. The prosecution then produced a text message chain where Roberts told him she was sorry and she urged him to ensure that no one told, and her nephew responded to that text by saying he would, quote, "take care of it." Then a guy by the name of Paul Smith testified, and he was a DoorDash driver, and he said he received a DoorDash request from a customer named Misty C, which obviously I told you earlier she was married to Duncan Clanton, so C was short for Clanton. He said the order was for Plan B emergency contraceptive. It gave a delivery address, which was Mayor Misty's home. He said he bought it, he delivered it to the home as per instructions and left it on the front door. Now, how is this for awkward? He said he actually knew it was the mayor's home because he had brought his kids there trick-or-treating in the past. Imagine that. You're a DoorDash driver and you deliver Plan B contraceptive to the mayor's house. Wow. He said after the delivery, he heard about the arrest of Misty Roberts and he thought Plan B may have had something to do with that. So he contacted police because the timing of the arrest was so close to when he delivered it. Testimony continued the next day, and first up was none other than Misty's ex-husband, Duncan Clanton. Now, Duncan testified he arrived at Misty's home the morning after the incident after getting a phone call from Jill Weaver, who was not only Misty's lifelong bestie, but also Duncan Clanton's sister. And he also received some texts from Misty herself that I'll get into in a little while. But he said Misty was visibly distraught when he got there and that she confessed to him that she had sex with the 16-year-old victim, saying to him, quote, "the kids caught me in the act," unquote. Now, after talking with her, Duncan said he spoke to their son privately and he confirmed everything Misty had said. She then asked her ex-husband to call the other parents and see if he could gauge, first of all, if they knew, and if they did know, try to gauge their reaction, I guess to see if it sounded like they were going to tell the police. He testified he complied. He compiled all the information of the people at the party, and he made the phone calls, and he just played it off. You know, did your kid have a good time at the party? I mean, he's not calling them saying, do you know that Mayor Misty had sex? He said in the following days, Mayor Misty tried to avoid being seen in public and that he also received a call from a city council member asking about the rumors. And he said he took up for his ex-wife and he denied those rumors. He went on to testify that both Roberts and his sister asked him not to say anything. Now, there were also text messages introduced where Misty reached out to him the next morning prior to him going to the residence, where she said, quote, "I need to talk to you. I just need to tell you in person. I fucked up and I respect you enough to tell you." So she's really kind of built herself into a box here with all these texts. I mean, all that is evidence, right? Next up was the lifelong bestie, Jill Weaver. Now, Weaver painted a pretty vivid picture of the party's aftermath. And incidentally, Weaver is her sister-in-law as well as her bestie, lifelong bestie. So she testified that she had actually visited the Roberts residence twice on the night in question. She stated the first visit was around 8 p.m. on the night of July 20th, 2024. She stated she went by to calm Roberts down after an argument with her son. Weaver said Roberts was as drunk at that point in time as she has ever seen her, and that's her lifelong best friend, mind you. She said she left the first time around 11 p.m. She said the second visit was around 2 o'clock a.m. She said her son, which is Robert's nephew, called because Roberts was upset and yelling. So she goes back inside in the wee hours of the morning and she finds Misty arguing with her son. And when she inquires what it's about, her son said that Misty, quote, fucked his best friend. She overheard Misty Roberts accusing the nephew, which is her son, of having a video, but he denied that. And he even gave Mayor Misty his phone so she could scroll through it to prove that he wasn't videoing her. Then she said all the boys gave Misty their phones to scroll through and make sure there was, I guess, no evidence there, although there were some pictures that I discussed earlier. She quoted Misty as saying, as soon as she walked in the house at 2 a.m., quote, "Oh, great, you called your mom," as well as Misty saying she wanted to, quote, kill herself. So next up on the stand was who we will refer to as the 14-year-old friend. And 14-year-old friend, he testified that Roberts bought alcoholic beverages for the kids to drink. He said he personally drank beer that he had taken from his parents' home without their knowledge. And he testified about his knowledge of that incident from his arrival at the home at 6 p.m. to leaving between 2 and 3 a.m. He said he saw Misty and the victim kissing by the pool before watching them go into the bonus room. Now, that bonus room, as I said, was on the second floor of the home. His testimony was from his vantage point on the first floor, on the ground floor of that home. He could see through that crack in the window and he could clearly see the victim and Misty having sex. And he said neither one of them had their clothes on. He could see them both completely nude. He said Roberts, upon leaving the room, was acting, quote, real crazy. He said Robert's nephew told Misty, quote, he had proof of what she had done and that Roberts demanded his phone. He was then asked if he was 100% sure that they had sex, to which he replied, yes. The defense then asked when the last time he saw the video was, to which he replied, that night. And really, that was for the cross to basically say it's been so long since you had seen that video that are you really remembering it correctly? That's all they were trying to do. Now, another minor attendee of that party also testified, and that person did not say many things that were different than what I've already told you, so I won't go through that. But then a 17-year-old college student testified. He was also at the party, and he mentioned that prior to the incident, he had seen Roberts and the victim taking a picture together. And he described that picture as, quote, a little strange. He said it was just a little strange for a teen and his friend's mom to be taking that type of picture together. He spoke with the victim and told him, quote, Roberts is flirting with you and you ought to see where it could go, unquote. He said he was alerted by others at the party that victim went upstairs with Roberts, and then he said he saw through the nephew's iPhone screen that Roberts and the victim were having sex. And he said about 30 seconds into looking at that, he realized, quote, the gravity of the situation. How about that? A 17-year-old realizing the gravity of this, but yet a mayor who is 42 didn't. Several of the teens discussed how to stop it. Now, during cross-examination, the defense played an interview that this 17-year-old college student had with police. And in that interview, he claimed he was asleep during the incident. So they asked him, they said, you know, either you're lying now or you were lying then. And he said, I was lying then. And they asked him why he would lie. And he said it just seemed like the easiest thing to do back when the incident occurred. I mean, he didn't think this was going to blow up to what it was. So in this trial, two more significant testimonies were left, that of the victim's mother and that of the victim himself. And the victim's mother testified that her son returned home the day after the party, and initially everything seemed fine. But she received a text from a family member asking to talk, which raised her suspicions that something was not right. So she confronted her son, and he discussed the details of the encounter. Now, I am going to get into those details specifically with his testimony. However, what I will say now is his mother did quote him as saying, "We had sex and I am disgusted." He also apologized to her, and she said that she responded, "You don't have anything to apologize for. You were taken advantage of here." And she said her son told her that he had some really deep regret. The way he was expressing this was with deep regret. She said after the incident, she put him on essentially lockdown, trying to keep the situation quiet and avoid more embarrassment. Because as I told you, this had already gotten around DeRidder, and she didn't want her son exposed to this. And I get that. I mean, it's a freaking mayor. It was everywhere. Now, initially, due to Misty Roberts being the mayor, she was not sure who she could trust with all this. The police chief in DeRidder, remember, his boss is the mayor. That's who hires and fires a police chief. So rather than going to the DeRidder police, she contacts the district attorney for that parish, and the district attorney tells her, I guess he agreed with her, that it may not be a good idea to go to the chief of police. And he said, go through the sheriff's office rather than the city police. That's what she did. And this led to her disclosing the following text exchange between Misty Roberts and the victim's mother. The mother to Roberts, quote, "Out of respect for both of our families, can you assure me you can't be pregnant?" Roberts, quote, "I am on birth control and it didn't reach that point during just those few minutes." So right there, you have an admission, right, of sex. So let's get into the victim's testimony. So the victim testified he arrives at the party, and his friends at the gathering, they told him drinks were available in the fridge. And he said he asked them if they were sure, meaning his friends, and they responded that they were and that the drinks were for all of them. He said that already upon his arrival, Misty appeared very, very drunk. And he admitted, quote, that he wanted to catch up, unquote, with the others at that party. So he started drinking very fast. So fast, in fact, that he vomits in the bathroom. Now, after cleaning himself up, he goes back outside the home. So before going back out there, he put on a red puffy jacket, to which, when he walked outside, Mayor Misty commented that he looked good. Then he said she winked at him, and not a friendly wink, like a dirty wink. And he said she started dancing with him outside at the pool. Now, just keep in mind here, because I want to preface this with this 16-year-old is clearly the victim. And in this case, he is so drunk to the point that he had already vomited that evening, and you have this really attractive older woman. She's in a bikini, an orange bikini. You got this 16-year-old kid. I mean, what is he going to do, right? So I'm just saying that to say you'll have some people say, well, it sounds like he was flirting back with her. Absolutely, he was. But he's the 16-year-old. She's the adult. She's winking at him and doing all these things. She's taking selfies with him. What do you expect him to do? So he said she then goes up to him in a very flirtatious way, and she says, "You know what you were doing in that jacket and hat," I guess insinuating that he looked good. He then said they went by the pool and they started kissing. Roberts then suggested they should not continue outside. So the victims asked if they could go upstairs inside the house, and she agreed. In the bonus room, Roberts asked a strange question, according to the victim, which was, quote, "What made you choose me?" to which the victim replied that he had picked up on the flirting. So he said at that point, she removes her bikini top. He said he pulled his pants down and she laid back on the couch and they had sex. And he said his eyes were closed during the majority of the time that they were having sex because he was dizzy. Afterward, he said he sat down on the couch and Roberts sat on his lap until he told her to get off because he was dizzy and he felt sick. He said in court that the realization set in immediately after they had sex, that they just had sex, and that coupled with the alcohol, it just made him sick. He said at this point, Roberts noticed a cell phone outside of the window, and she tells him to tell the other teens if they asked what he was doing in that room, to tell them that she brought him upstairs to get him to stop with the flirting with her. He said an argument then breaks out with Roberts and her son when her son is basically like, "You fucked my friend," as soon as they walked out of the room, to which Roberts responded, "Go fight your friend then. He's the one who did it." He said he felt shell-shocked after that occurred. It was awkward. I mean, this is his best friend. He just screwed the guy's mother. It was awkward to him. The entire situation, he testified. He said Robert's nephew then caught him outside of the house and said, "What you did is kind of messed up, but it's definitely her fault." The nephew also took a gun out of the house at that time, and that aligns with the suicide threat. So he was worried that Mayor Misty was going to follow up on that kill myself comment that I told you about earlier. Now, the next day, the victim said he called his sister, who told him that it was already getting out, all of this shit that went down at that party. And he said it moved so fast, that information, that his girlfriend actually broke up with him the next day for sleeping with Mayor Misty. And he also confirmed in open court that he ejaculated inside of Roberts during that incident. Now, the defense did ask him why in his initial interview with police, he didn't tell them he ejaculated in her. And he said it was due to him being embarrassed. And that's 16 years old. I get it. So on March 3rd, 2026, the prosecution and defense rested, and the jury then deliberated for all of an hour before they found Mayor Misty Roberts guilty on one count of carnal knowledge of a juvenile and one count of indecent behavior with a juvenile. Now, both of these charges are felonies, and combined, she could get sentenced to 17 years in prison. The jury needed less than an hour to find her guilty. So there you have it. That is the complete on-the-record story, this wild story out of DeRidder, Louisiana, Mayor Misty Roberts. And I'm going to tell you, I will certainly bring to you the final results of this upcoming month in April. She will be actually sentenced in this case. Who knows what she's going to get? They may try to set an example. She may get probation like a lot of my bad teachers get when they do shit like this. But I will follow up and, of course, let you know. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the Patreon. Got a lot of files on this case in particular I'm going to be uploading. You also get commercial-free early releases, bonus episodes. I got a bonus episode coming. I've just been unable to record it. And I want to explain this quickly also before we get out of here. I have been kind of quiet on the Patreon the last week or so, and that is not intentional. It's because I've been stuck in a trial for the last week. It's going on the second week now. I will explain everything. I'm actually going to bring you an episode on this when it's over, and you'll totally get it. But I do want to apologize. I've been a little bit quiet on there. I like communicating with my peeps on Patreon. I just haven't, I'm stuck in court literally some nights till 9 o'clock at night from 9 o'clock in the morning. So I promise you, I will get you that. Thank you so much for listening. Patreon.com/exposed podcast files for all those extras. And until next time, for Exposed, I'm Jim Chapman. Much love.